Testing. Okay.
Trying to put a new wallpaper on?
Just seeing if it would do it.
No, you can try. There you go.
Now it knows that it's me. It takes you there.
Yeah.
How are you? Yeah, I'm going to play those 3 beats today.
Yeah. I wish there was a... Good evening, West Salem Mission. How's everybody doing this evening, afternoon? Well, we're here for another day, and want to thank the Lord for all these provisions that He's provided for us. Learned a lot of stuff here. I'm here to introduce the next speaker, Lee Wellard, and please join me in a word of prayer before we get started. Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, we want to thank you for this opportunity to come together in this holy convocation to draw people closer to you, to expand our minds about the things you've taught us in the Bible. Help us learn, understand, make friendships, and just have a good time here at West Salem Mission. And we pray this all in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Well, welcome back. Can you hear me? All right. We're going to be doing part 3 of Herbal Remedies series, and I wanted to thank everyone who has been involved in the hands-on program. It's been a great blessing, and I trust that you'll go away being confident that you can make some of these herbal creations. So I'll be covering a few more dozen herbs today, and I hope you can take some notes. You're welcome also to take the presentation if you want to plug a USB drive into my computer. You are welcome. We don't copyright anything. So let's start. This is a letter that was written by Ellen White, and she says, God has caused to grow out of the ground herbs for the use of man, and if we understand the nature of those roots and herbs and make a right use of them, there would not be a necessity of running for the doctor so frequently, and people would be in much better health than they are today. I believe in calling upon the great physician when we have used the remedies I have mentioned. And so Ellen White was in favor of using the herbs, using the roots, and of course using the foods as medicines. And here's another quote that is very appropriate for the time we're living in. There are many simple herbs which, if our nurses would learn the value of, they could use in the place of drugs and find very effective. Many times I have been applied to for advice as to what should be done in case of sickness or accident. And I have mentioned some of these simple remedies, and they have proved helpful. And I know Mrs. White was not a herbalist, and I don't think she was trying to how can I say, I don't think she was trying to spell out what every herb or plant does. God leaves a lot of this up to us to find out, doesn't he? There were many remedies back in her day that still exist in our day. And a lot of the things that we learned were actually passed down from our parents, from their parents, grandparents, and so on. And did you know that they've done studies on this? 75% of the traditional remedies that were used were actually remedial to the treatment at hand. In other words, a lot of what Grandma taught and your mother taught, actually 75% of them were actually considered scientifically effective. Maybe there would actually be more if the science was done even with better standards. But that being said, a lot of what was taught is really still valid and current for many of the conditions that people suffer from today. Ellen White herself was sometimes accused of being hypocritical. In fact, some rumors went around that she was actually drinking tea and coffee. She said, "I did not use tea when you were with us. I have always used red clover top. As I stated to you, I offered you this and told you it was a good, simple, and wholesome drink." She says, "I do not use tea, either green or black, but not a spoonful has passed my lips for many years, except when crossing the ocean. And once since on this side, I took it as a medicine when I was sick and vomiting. In such circumstances, it may prove a present relief." In other words, there are things that can be taken as a remedy for sickness that wouldn't constitute health in a normal setting. And Ellen White was cognizant of this, and she was giving advice to many of the believers that, hey, don't think I'm contradicting what I wrote. This is still bad for you. However, in these circumstances, it can prove beneficial. I thought it was interesting, this quote I came across. This was not written by Ellen White, but I want to share it with you because I think it is very enlightening. It says here, "For 50 years, Mrs. White wrote extensively for publication on the subject of health and the care of the sick. But it is interesting and significant fact that except for a brief mention of the lump of figs for Hezekiah's boils and a fleeting allusion to the ineffectual use of simple herbs in the illness of one of her sons, she made no reference to the medicinal use of herbs or to other specific simple medications in any of her published statements. To say the least, this fact does not permit the conclusion that the use of herbs is of prime importance in the whole health program that she set forth in completeness." This was written by the Ellen White estate in Second Selected Messages, page 292. I do take issue with this statement, and I don't think it is fair to say that she only mentioned herbs in passing for the case of her son, and there was one instance where she used herbs. It didn't seem to prove effective for a particular condition that her son was experiencing, and she does mention more than a lump of figs, and she does also reference the medicinal use of herbs in her writings. That being said, I do agree that it should not be considered of prime importance in the sense that it is more important than lifestyle. I believe it is complementary, and in fact it comes under the category of good nutrition because herbs actually are high in nutritional value, and the herbs of the field, there's a fine gap between medicinal herbs and plant foods, all right? Foods that we eat, like for example, blueberry. Is it a medicine or is it a food? It's both, right? So where do you draw the line, right? Foods have medicinal value. Pretty much, I mean, everything God gave us to certain degrees, has medicinal components in there, right? Even many of our grains, fruits, vegetables. So it's a very fine line. So when we often talk about herbal medicine, we're often referring to usually what we call botanical medicine, where we use leaves. We're using non-food items generally that may comprise berries or bark or roots or leaves or flowers that are used for medicinal purposes. So I take it this way. Don't categorize herbs in the sense of all being good or all being bad. Like people, when you meet a person, doesn't matter what race they're from, you don't judge the whole race, you judge them on an individual basis. Does that make sense? So you weigh each plant based on its own merits. And that way, we can follow the evidence wherever it takes us, right? So the Bible talks about good herbs, it talks about bad herbs, right? For example, in I didn't put the reference here. It should be 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 39 and 40. It says, one went out into the field to gather herbs and found a wild vine and gathered thereof wild gourds with his lap full, and came and shred them into the pot of pottage, for they knew them not. So they poured out for the men to eat. And it came to pass, as they were eating out of the pottage, that they cried out and said, O man of God, there is death in the pot. Sounds like could be a bad potluck lunch somewhere. And they could not eat thereof. All right, so this was actually considered to be what we call a bitter apple. Citrullus colocynthus is its botanical name, and it is very bitter, and it can cause projectile vomiting. So you don't want to take this. All right, don't bring this to church for Sabbath lunch. Yes. So this is a situation where you have a poisonous vine. They thought it was a common gourd that could be eaten. A lot of gourds are edible, but this one in particular. And how did they know there was death in the pot? Because someone was experiencing death-like symptoms, right? They were experiencing the poisonous effects. And so we know from thousands of years of plants being eaten whether they have poisonous effects or not. We don't necessarily need science to prove they're poisonous or not. We can study the effects on human physiology from people taking these plants. By the way, there's about 100,000 herbs been identified. There's about 30,000 herbs that have been scientifically, clinically tested. There's about 10,000 that we considered edible. All right, some herbs are edible for us and poisonous to certain animals. All right, some are poisonous to us and edible for certain animals. And so what may be one man's lunch is another man's poison. All right, so God put things in nature that don't always equate to feeding humanity. All right, so they may be poisonous, but we don't say because they're poisonous, therefore the whole category of those herbs are necessarily poisonous. I remember when I went up to Michigan. Anyone been to the what's that? Pioneer Village. Pioneer Village. Anyone been up there? And you can go in the museum. Have you been to the museum? And there's a lot of history in there with Dr. Kellogg and even some of the equipment they used in the sanitarium. And Dr. Kellogg was quite an inventor. Many things he invented, massage machines and all kinds of devices and exercise devices for people to use. He was very big into hydrotherapy. He was big into exercise. And if you go in there, it's very interesting. There's a plaque in there that talks about a man that ate a tomato in the public square, and people thought he was committing suicide because tomatoes were considered a poison because they were part of the nightshade family, and many of the nightshade family are poisonous plants. But the tomato, even though it's in that family, it doesn't cause death, as you've probably figured out by now. All right, we like our tomatoes. All right. What do you think about when I say cannabis? Marijuana, right? Okay, you think of some hippie, with a sort of laying sideways with maybe something in his mouth, smoking. All right. Well, do you know that oat straw is part of the cannabis family? Hops is part of the cannabis family. There are many medicinal herbs that are part. Hemp, for example, is part of the cannabis family. So cannabis is a family name, but underneath that you have different offspring that potentially, well, actually not just potentially, but are quite healthy and very effective in medicinal remedies. So you probably have in your family some good family and maybe some not good family. Is that right? Sometimes, I won't put anyone on the spot, but that can happen. We know that it happens to other people, all right? All right, probably the person sitting next to you. So families have good people, not so good people, some saints on their way to sainthood, and some ones that are causing maybe some mischief here and there. But so herbs are similar in that sense that they can be of the same family and still not have the same poisonous nature as others, right? So we do have different categories of herbs. We have herbs that are called astringents, okay? Now, herbs that are astringents, they have a tightening effect in the body. They can tighten tissue. Well, why do we need to tighten tissue? Well, what if you're a lady that you're having heavy bleeding? All right, and you're losing a lot of blood, you're losing iron, affects your hemoglobin, and you may need something like shepherd's purse, for example. Shepherd's purse can cause that bleeding to stop. All right, what if you got varicose veins? You can use something like witch hazel topically. All right, you can use horse chestnut. They're both astringents. They will tighten the tissue, the vascular tissue, tighten your veins, and it can help with varicose veins. What if you got hemorrhoids? Okay, well, it's the same thing. You can use an astringent cream that can tighten things up a little bit. And so they often improve the vasculature, which also helps in blood flow. And this is, as I mentioned before, this is one of the ways that healing takes place in the body. You just increase circulation. So we have this category called astringents. Another category we have, by the way, there's 5 recognized categories. There's some debate about this, and I won't complicate things, but there are other categories of herbs that may be considered their own category. And one of them is called demulcents. That's considered its own category. These are mucilaginous herbs that are very slippery, such as aloe vera, slippery elm, marshmallow root, licorice root, things that are jelly-like, and these are very soothing. Why do we use herbs like demulcents? Because they help protect the mucous membranes. They help the GI tract. They help the gastrointestinal system. If you've got ulceration, you've got inflammation, where you need some protective layer to help you. They're also often very antimicrobial as well. They can help with constipation. All right. Do you know the average American goes for a bowel movement 1 time every 2 days? Yes, the average American has a bowel movement every 2 days, once every 2 days. All right, so you should be having at least 2 bowel movements a day, all right, to have regularity. So when the stool is trying to get through the bowel, it doesn't. Sometimes what the body does, it starts to break it up, it reabsorbs it, goes back through the portal vein into the liver, and it ends up back in the bloodstream, and you wonder why you have a headache. Okay, so demulcent herbs, they can help facilitate better movement in the bowel. They can help just push things along. They're not just brooms, but they do help provide a slippery environment for things just to slide through without causing a lot of strain. And then we have aromatic herbs. Aromatic herbs, they have high amounts of pungent smells because of the volatile oils that are in the herb. They're often associated with helping improve stress, and they can often help with moods, and they can help with the immune system. They often help the neuroendocrine system. And aromatic herbs are very strong odors. All herbs really generally have odors. If it doesn't have an odor, usually it is not going to work for you. I remember I was invited to speak at a lifestyle center. I had to fly down there, and I couldn't bring all my herbs with me. And so I said, do you mind if I use your herbs? And they said, sure. So I went into their kitchen, and they had a couple of hundred different herbs in their kitchen. And I opened them up, and I couldn't smell them, even ginger. I had to put my nose right on top of it. And I said, well, these herbs, you may as well throw them all out. You know, in self-supporting work, you don't throw anything out. You know, everything's valuable. But, you know, people are paying $3,000, $5,000 to come to, you know, you want to have good herbs. So if your herbs are aged, just get rid of them, start again, because they're like foods. They do have a shelf life, they go off. So try to use herbs, especially leaves, within a year of purchasing them or harvesting them. And then we have bitter herbs. Bitter herbs are very good for digestion. All right, just like the children of Israel, they left Egypt at midnight, and they ate a lamb. Can you believe? What would your family think if you ate a lamb at 12 o'clock at night? Well, if you ate a lamb at 12 o'clock at night, you're going to need some bitter herbs. Imagine you eat a lamb at 12 o'clock, and then you've got to leave your country and walk about 200 miles through a desert. You better have good digestion to do that. So bitter herbs help facilitate the breakdown of protein. They increase hydrochloric acid. They improve bile flow. They improve intestinal flow, peristalsis, and they help also with binding with toxins in the body and eliminate them through the bowel. They're a very good source of dietary fiber. They help stimulate salivary amylase in the mouth. They can help trigger the vagus nerve to cause bile to be secreted, and has great effects. You know, the bitter things of life often are some of the things that help us to realize the blessings of life, aren't they? It's often the bitter things, the bitter experiences that give us an appreciation. I remember John the Revelator was given a book, and you remember it was sweet in his mouth, right? And it was bitter in his belly. And out of that bitterness came forth a movement, right? We call it the Seventh-day Adventist movement. Came out of the bitter disappointment that we experienced in 1844. Then we have nutritive herbs. Nutritive herbs are herbs that are high in nutritional value. So we have things like alfalfa and barley green, wheatgrass, and oat straw, red clover, nettle. Things that you can take on a daily basis. So a lot of people take herbs for nutrition. Now, herbs don't need to be consumed every day for medicine, except if you want to take them for nutritional support, right? So some people ask me, how long do I take a herb? Well, I tell them, as long as you need it. You know, if your problem goes away, then you know, you don't need to take any more. However, nutritive herbs you can just take for nutritional support. They work really well. And as I mentioned before, one of the most nutritious herbs in the planet is actually nettle. Nettle is very good. Second one I highly recommend is oat straw, then red clover. Barley green, alfalfa is another one. Wheatgrass. I have a hard time with wheatgrass. I remember I was rolling on the floor after 2 ounces of wheatgrass. Just go easy with wheatgrass. I don't know if Nebuchadnezzar ate. It says he ate grass. I don't know if he ate wheatgrass, but he could tolerate it for 7 years. I couldn't tolerate it for about 7 minutes. But anyway. So here's are some principles of herbal remedies I want to keep in mind. When we're looking at herbs, these are important principles I like to educate people about in the use of them. Herbs must be preserved to maintain effectiveness. All right. As I mentioned before, leaves have a 1 year lifespan. Roots or berries or bark, about 5 years. If it's a powder, usually about 3 years. So you must preserve them to keep their nutritional value. Keep them in a dark place, cool place, and it will last longer. Herbal teas and extracts are the best way to take herbs. By the way, I'm not a big fan of herbal tea bags. Okay, so teas that you buy in tea bags, often they have a chloride derivative called dioxin. Dioxin can cause cancer in trillions of a part. I think it was about, correct me if I'm wrong, about 3 or 4 months ago, we had an accident with a train in Ohio. Do you remember that? Okay, well that was carrying, I think it was over 1 million pounds of dioxin. Dioxin can cause cancer to trillions of a part, and that stuff is just leached into the fields and into the tributaries. It's destroying people's farms. It can cause cancer hundreds of miles away just from the smoke that just moves it, depending on where it goes. Anyway, God is still in the business of taking care of his people, so don't stress about that. All right, so herbal teas and extracts, they go straight in the bloodstream. That's why I recommend them. Most people take herbal pills. Herbal pills aren't the best way. And also compressed tablets. Here's why. Because there's no tea kettle in the stomach. The way the body gets the properties out of the herb is through acid from the stomach. If you take a pill at the wrong time, you're not going to get the benefit from it. Some of these compressed tablets, here's a test. You put it in a glass of water. If it doesn't dissolve in 10 minutes, it's not going to dissolve in your body. They use they press it very tightly with binding agents. Sometimes it doesn't separate in the bowel. Herb dosage vary depending on herb use, weight of person, form they are taken in, and the condition of the person. Herbs are best used if the cause of disease is ascertained. Remember, the curse causeless shall not come. There's always a cause, and it's not a good idea just to take a pill for every ill without addressing the underlying problem. Okay, this is vital because otherwise it's going to create additional side effects and it could make matters worse down the road. Herbs will work best if you have a better lifestyle because they're not having so much resistance in the body. So, you know, if you're eating under the golden arches every day and you're taking turmeric, you may want to change where you're eating your burgers. Make some oat burgers instead. How's that? Herbs should be used intelligently and in therapeutic levels deemed appropriate for the condition, and they're not to be relied upon continually unless they are used for nutritional support. One of the best herbs to have on a regular basis is garlic. All right, garlic is antiviral, it's antibacterial, it's antifungal, it's also antisocial. So take it with friends, and if there's COVID restrictions, 6-foot distance, you won't have anything to worry about. All right. Now, garlic was used in many cultures, including Egypt, as you are aware. It wasn't the garlic stuck between the teeth that caused them to die, by the way, in the wilderness. You probably understand where I'm going with that. But garlic is very good for blood clots. It has ethers and mustard oils that can actually dissolve clots in the body. So if you're prone to clotting, take some garlic. It helps resist the effects of stress and fatigue. It rejuvenates the skin. It's helpful for respiratory issues, dementia, boosts metabolism, assists detoxification. It helps with athlete's foot. By the way, you want to put the clove oil, the clove, what is it called now? Just the bulb, in some oil, in some olive oil. Don't apply it directly. Okay, it can burn a little bit, and if you make garlic oil, don't take it after 7 days. If you're going to internally consume it, it could cause botulism. That's one of the contraindications. And it's anti-inflammatory, and it's also an effective painkiller. By the way, it's also one of the best things to lower blood pressure as well. Very good for the heart. And someone mentioned yesterday to me they had some lime. Now, garlic is very good for the acute stage of Lyme. And if you want to get the best remedy for that, get some Alimed. Alimed is very, very concentrated garlic oil, and it's very, very effective in cases of things that even antibiotics may not be able to help in the short term. Aloe vera is another excellent one. You remember that Jesus was embalmed with aloes. And aloe vera is not just a preservative. It actually helps every part of the body that is basically subject to decay. It will seal the skin from bacterial invasion. It helps the delicate mucous membranes of the small intestine. If you've got any ulceration, even in the stomach, it can protect you against things like peptic ulcers. If you have constipation, it can help facilitate that. Just don't take too much aloe vera at the skin. The skin has some tannins in there that can cause diarrhea if you take too much. So you want to take the gel. So you fillet the leaf, you scoop that leaf. Don't take more than about a tablespoon at one time. Also excellent for burns. One of the best remedies for burns. I forget how many times we've used this for burns. It works in some instances on contact. It's very, very effective, and it takes the pain away as well. It's a very good painkiller if you're having some experiences with burns. Hibiscus tea. Everyone like hibiscus? We had some this morning. We didn't get time to even try it. We just made it. But hibiscus is a powerful antioxidant. It's very good for the blood. It's very good for the heart. It's high in antioxidants, and it helps with inflammation. It lowers blood pressure. It helps lower blood. It helps lower the fat levels also in the blood. It lowers cholesterol, and that's helpful for a lot of people. Promotes weight loss and promotes liver health, and also has compounds in there that can help prevent cancer, fights bacteria. It's very flavorful. You can take this in the springtime, in summertime, in fall, and winter. It's nice hot, it's nice cold, and we used it today. We made some throat balls for those who weren't with us, and we used some hibiscus powder with licorice, anise powder, and strawberry, freeze-dried strawberry powder. And you just roll them up with a little bit of honey and put them in the freezer, and they're very good for sore throats. Hibiscus flower is good for that as well. Then let's talk a little bit about Irish moss. I think we mentioned briefly yesterday about iodine. Most people in America are deficient in iodine. Now, iodine is not just used for energy, and it's very important for energy, by the way. Every cell needs iodine. It's important for the mitochondria of the cell to produce the ATP to give us energy. So Irish moss, and there are other seaweeds as well that can be used, very good source of dietary iodine. Now, I think I might have mentioned before that iodine was used in bread up until the 1970s. They replaced it with bromide. The IQ dropped nationwide 10 points. Iodine is used to protect us from cancer. Also, it is involved in making glandular tissue. And a lot of ladies today are getting breast cancer from low iodine levels. So you may want to consider using something like Irish moss. Iodine is not in the soil. It leaches through the soil. It ends up in little tributaries, goes out in the ocean. So you can get liquid iodine. We use the potassium iodine. You can also use atomic or nascent iodine, and it goes straight into the bloodstream. Also helps with joint pain, metabolism, heart health, helps control appetite. It's a natural decongestion, enhances thyroid function, soothes the digestive tract, provides remarkable nutrition, promotes mental and emotional health, and supports the immune system. Without iodine, you'd be dead. All of us would be dead. So it's very, very important to get this in your body. There's certain things that we can get from the soil. There's certain things that is very hard to get because of the way things are grown. So the things that we take supplementary that we don't get from our food or herbs, one is B12. We get a B12 supplement. We at times may take a vitamin D supplement. There have been times we take selenium. Selenium I know is found in Brazil nuts, but sometimes we haven't had Brazil nuts, and we got some zinc tablets. Also iodine as well. I personally don't like eating Irish moss. It's like eating a jellyfish. So I would just say, if you're not into seaweed, I lived in Japan for a few years. They love seaweed, and I hated seaweed. So, but anyway, it's very good iodine. Japanese don't have any problem with iodine, by the way. Health benefits of burdock root. Everyone like a little bit of burdock root in their smoothie in the morning? Okay, yeah. Right, you're saying right. Not in your life. Well, burdock root is very good for detoxifying. It's very good for the liver. And it promotes healthy immune system, skin. It also can control blood sugar. It can help with inflammation, fights arthritis. It can help with losing weight, improve digestive system, and very good for preventing rheumatoid arthritis. Some people use it for cancer prevention as well. And you can get the taproot. It's very easy to grow, by the way, burdock root. Just get those long taproots. They're really hard. They go into the ground quite deep. They're like long carrots. And you got to really yank them out. And you can actually eat the greens as well, but the root is where more concentration of the nutritional elements are. This is great for liver. If you want a liver detox, burdock root is one of those choice herbs to use. We combine it in one of our formulas with milk thistle seed, shashandra berry, and dandelion root. Then marshmallow root powder. Marshmallow is in the category of the mucilaginous herbs, those demulcent herbs that we talked about earlier, and very good to help with the GI, with the inflammation. They can help also with healing the skin. They can help with eczema, dermatitis, even moisturizes the skin. If your skin's too dry, it can hold the moisture into the skin. There are different creams you can get with marshmallow powder in there. Helps with insect bites. It can help if your skin is dry and is peeling. And it's very good for sensitive skin, even very good for the hair, by the way. It's very supportive to the scalp if you've got dandruff, and it helps give you healthy, smooth, strong hair. So that's something that we use for people often with GI issues. They're having, maybe they've got some type of colitis or gastritis, or they're having problems even going to the bathroom, that type of thing. We often recommend marshmallow root. Another great herb to take that comes from a root is maca root. Everyone heard maca root? Yeah, who's tried maca root? Put up your hand. Okay, only a small population. Okay, so it's very good for boosting energy. It's very supportive for the adrenal glands. and it's one of those herbs that really it often takes maybe a few days to really get the full force of it, but it's very supportive it helps with libido, it can help fight fatigue, depression, it can help with cortisol levels, it improves cognitive function, it can help the neuroendocrine system, and it can balance hormones, increase fertility as well, and it can also reduce some of the menopause symptoms in ladies. So very good if you want to try some maca root. It doesn't taste too bad. I think it's tolerable. And then another one we have is pau d'arco. Pau d'arco is a well-known herb that's often used for cancer prevention. In fact, some people use it to help with their cancer. We use it as a combination in one of our extracts for lowering the prostate, the PSA levels of the prostate. So pau d'arco is very supportive for the prostate, and also if you combine it with red clover, it can really have a good synergistic effect. It helps also with leukemia as well. It's good for allergies, arthritis. It can fight parasites. It's blood purifier. It's very good for the liver and the bowel as well. So pau d'arco is very supportive. And then we have chicory root. If you want a natural coffee, try chicory root. Roasted with a little bit of roasted dandelion, and put a little bit of vanilla extract in there, non-alcoholic one, and a little bit of honey, and it tastes really, really delicious. Chicory root is very supportive to the gastrointestinal system, and it's also a natural prebiotic. So it's very high in inulin. Inulin is what the body uses not only to control blood sugar levels, but also to make a healthy gut biome. And so the intestinal biome, should I say. So it's very helpful if you've had, say you've had a lot of antibiotics, for example, which strips out the microbes in the small intestine. You can take chicory, and that will help recover that. It also can help lower cholesterol levels, and it can help with blood pressure, and it tastes absolutely delicious on top of that. Ashwagandha is another excellent herb. Highly recommend that. We use that for many of our formulas. It's very, very effective for the adrenals and the thyroid gland. It mitigates cortisol levels. It helps reduce blood sugar levels. And also it's fantastic for reducing inflammation, and it gives you energy. It's slow acting. Sometimes it works a little faster than others, but you got to take it for at least a few weeks to get the full benefit out of that, but very good for the neuroendocrine system, and it's a stress reducer. It's very good for that. Anyone here got stress? Anyone? Okay, I got some of mine today. Okay, ashwagandha is very good. And here's another excellent herb, catnip. Catnip. Anyone heard of cat? I think I've got a slide on this catnip. Hang on a second here. There is a quote. Where is it now? Maybe. There we go. Catnip. This was written by Sister White. A cup of tea made from catnip herb will quiet the nerves. And that is certainly true of... No, it's not just for cats, yeah. It's got what we call nepentolactones in there, and they actually make the cat in a state of a loving frenzy. So they'll just come up to you and they'll be all lovey-dovey. If you're going through the jungles of Africa as a missionary, you may want to take a bag with you just in case. I'm sorry to say it's only effective 50% of the time, but if you go with a friend, your chances increase, okay? All right, so catnip is very good for nervous disorders, stress. It's a stress reliever. It benefits the skin, improves digestion, helps with sleep. This is one of the big reasons it's used for. And insomnia, speeds up healing, helps with headaches, menstrual pain, anti-inflammatory. Let me just tell you something right about now. I'm just being reminded here that there's all these all these things that each herb does. Have you noticed that? There's many of them? Many of them? Okay, so there's usually a major response from a herb and many minors. For example, like let's take elderberry. Elderberry is the major function of elderberry is for viral infections. But it has other side functions that it does separate from that are maybe of lesser importance. And so you take the herb that has the major effects upon the condition that you're experiencing. Does that make sense? So if catnip is good for menstrual pain, for example, but there are other herbs that are more effective for menstrual pain. So you take a herb that has the most effectiveness, it's like the major part of that herb is focused in that direction. All right, so that's what you usually find with each herb. You've got a major and lots of minors, okay? So just keep that in mind when you're selecting the herb of choice. You'll have a better understanding if you know the majors of each herb. Then we have hops. Hops is a flower actually that's made into a beer. You probably heard about that. All right, well, they used to think it was the alcohol that made people go to sleep. Well, actually they found, after doing some studies on the hops, they found it was the hops that made the people go to sleep. And actually, Ellen White talked about the hops here. She said, hop tea will induce sleep. This was before scientific studies were done on this, okay? Hop poultices over the stomach will relieve pain. So not only did she recommend it as a tea, but also as a topical poultice application. And we find also it does other things. It can help also with depression. If you're on antidepressants and you want to come off them in a safe manner, hops is one of those things that can be done. Make sure you talk to someone who knows what they're doing in the medical field. And also it helps you with focusing. It helps you sort of stay focused. It helps the memory as well. It helps the sympathetic nervous system that may be too revved up. Ever lying in bed, and I do this myself, it's not stress, but my brain, it goes 100 miles an hour and it's very hard to turn off at night. So hops is one of those herbs you can use. It slows down the brainwave activity. It has a chemical called lupulon, and that just brings the brain waves into a deeper state of consciousness, so it helps you transition into a deeper sleep at a faster rate. So hops is very good for that. Avoid the beer, though, okay? All right. All right. We mentioned yesterday about calendula or pot marigold. It's the same thing. And this is very good for the skin. If you've got eczema, psoriasis, you've got some skin that needs healing, it's maybe an open, a weeping wound, or it's just slowing in healing, calendula is good for that. Also, it's very good for rashes and sunburns. It's good for shingles. And we've tried it pretty much on every skin condition. Tried it on poison ivy. I remember a girl from church, her face was so swollen she couldn't even open her eyes. And used some calendula cream and it came down very quickly. So think of the skin, think of calendula. It's one of the most effective remedies. And then skullcap. This is in a category of herbs that are basically nervines or herbs that help relax you. They give you a nice sedating experience. This is often used for sleep as well. Skullcap. It has other benefits, helps remove toxins from the body. It can help also lower fever, help with flu, help with anxiety. It's actually been studied on some of the most virulent viruses as well, with good success. Anyone get headaches or migraines? All right, well, feverfew is one of those herbs that could help you. So when you get say a migraine, you get some constriction in the blood vessels in the brain and also dilation. So there's a large volume going to a smaller volume, it can cause pressure on the vascular tissue and can cause headaches. And this is why when people take caffeine, their migraine goes away, because it equalizes circulation. It constricts the blood vessels. Now, I'm not suggesting people take caffeine for migraines. It will create a rebound effect. But if you dilate all the blood vessels, you can create the same thing. And you can equalize circulation, and you can take pressure off that vascular tissue. Also, a nice hot foot bath can help as well. If you put a little bit of cayenne powder or mustard powder in the foot bath, that will help as well. Put your feet in hot water above your ankles. You've got temperature receptors in the ankles that cause vasodilation. And put a nice cold ice pack on the back of your head, and you'll find your headache or migraine can subside a lot faster. Oregon grape root is another excellent antimicrobial. Even with very resistant bacteria like MRSA, if you use Oregon grape root, in fact, some studies have been done on Oregon grape root combined with some antibiotics, because the MRSA just get rid of the antibiotic and so it doesn't kill it. But with Oregon grape root, it causes the antibiotic to stay in there and gets rid of the bacteria. So it's very, very effective. We're not making more antibiotics, different kinds, because basically we're creating more superbugs. All right, and so the answer is not to create more stronger antibiotics, but to create stronger resistance. All right, because nature's always a step ahead, right? You get a stronger pesticide, you get more virulent weeds. That's how it works. The number one herb for inflammation is turmeric root. It's had over 6,000 clinical studies done on turmeric root, and it is gold for a reason. God made it color gold to make us appreciate it's worth its weight in gold. In fact, in the times of Jesus, it was literally worth its weight in gold. Okay, today it's very common. Unfortunately, a lot of turmeric loses its color over time, so they use a dye to color it. In the dye, they put some lead in there that colors it. And so a lot of turmeric has high amounts of lead in there. So just to let you know, make sure you can... I'm not saying don't eat turmeric, I'm just saying make sure you get high quality turmeric from a good, reliable, organic source. CBD oil is another good one. I was a little hesitant when this first came out, but I looked into it and did some research. I listened to a lot of people's experience with it. And yes, it does help with pain. And it's very good for sleep as well, and also seizures. I would not recommend taking hemp that has THC in it. So THC, it has a small part of THC in hemp. That's the psychotropic element. Okay, that's what gives you a high. Now, it's not enough to give you a high like marijuana. It's very similar to marijuana, but you can actually get this taken out. You can find products already with the THC removed. It's only, I think, less than 3%, but the ones you get have none in, they take the whole thing out. So CBD is very good for pain. We have CBD receptors in our body, and it does help mediate the pain neurotransmitters. So this can be helpful. Now, I used to sell this. I found something that's just as good, so I just don't use it much anymore, but it does tend to work for many people. This is a lady's best herbal friend. It's called Vitex, or also known as chasteberry. All the men right now should be taking notes, okay? So Vitex is very good as a hormonal normalizer. It's very good for menstrual situations. PMS. You got PMS? Vitex. I don't think my wife will mind me saying I've shared this about 1,000 times already online, but she had bad PMS 2 weeks out of the month every month of the year. And she started taking Vitex, and that's when things started normalizing. And we couldn't actually have children until she started taking Vitex. It's very good also for fibroids. It's good for endometriosis. Now, you do not use it with hormone patches, and you do not use it with birth control medication, okay? All right, and it will take a little time to work. Some of these herbs that affect hormones take time. Even the synthetic hormones take time. So you're going to need at least several weeks, perhaps to even see some positive results with this herb. And then we have echinacea. This is another powerful immune-enhancing herb. It helps, we use this morning in one of our remedies. It's helpful to boost the killer T cells, helps with phagocytosis. It helps increase the mobility of the killer T cells. There's different types of echinacea. You have echinacea purpurea, echinacea angustifolia, echinacea pallida. We use the purpurea and the angustifolia, and those are the ones that are medicinal. It has a cousin called black-eyed Susan. Have you seen that, black-eyed Susan? All right, it grows wild, and if you see that plant, you see that flower, it's just as effective as the echinacea. You can use the whole plant for medicine. You can use the leaf, you can use the stem, you can use the petals, you can even use the roots. It's highly effective as an immune enhancer. You don't want to take it for like months on end, like continually every single day. But especially when you start getting some rundown feeling, colds going around, people are getting sick, that's a good time to take it. We often get sick around the change of winter to spring, that time, and then fall to winter. All right, so when there's a big change in temperature, that's often when we get sick. 30% of your energy every day goes into maintaining body temperature. And that is why we often get sick when there's a change of temperature, because so much is used for that, and the immune system can often not get the energy it needs to power itself to destroy some of these microbes. And then we have saw palmetto. Saw palmetto is an excellent one for prostate health. 60% of American men 40 and over have enlarged prostate. Okay, so saw palmetto can help shrink the prostate. When men get prostate enlargement, often they have frequent urination, erectile dysfunction, and they're up throughout the night. It's not a good situation. So saw palmetto is an excellent remedy for that one. Milk thistle seed. I think I mentioned this before, but milk thistle seed is very good for liver function. It's extremely beneficial for detoxifying the liver, repairing the liver, reducing the liver enzymes, and it is actually used for consumption of poisonous mushrooms as well. Intravenously, they give it to save people's lives when they have poisonous mushrooms. And it's the only thing on earth that could save the life is the milk thistle seed. And it's very good as a dietary source of fiber. It helps with binding toxins in the body and escorting them out. It's also something you want to grind up. If you're going to eat, it's got a very tough fiber to it, a bit like flaxseed. So you have to grind it up if you want to get maximum benefit out of it, or take it as an extract. And then bitter melon is another excellent one, especially for people that have insulin resistance. This is one of the formulas herbs we use in one of our formulas for helping regulate sugar control. But it's got many other advantages, as you can read up there besides that. Bitter things, remember, help with the gastrointestinal system. Speaking of bitter things, parasites do not like bitter things, okay? So a lot of people, I wouldn't say everyone has parasites, but if you've got animals in your home, if you're handling manure, if you've been in a third world country, contaminated water, chances are you're going to have some parasites. especially if you're eating things like fish, and especially raw fish. Okay, yeah. There's these tapeworms. I remember I had an old friend that he used to go fishing, and his job was to test the fish for parasites. And he said every fish he tested had parasites in it. And even when you cook it, you may kill the parasite, but you leave behind the antigen, and that's the problem. Some of these tapeworms, they can grow several meters long. They can live in your GI tract for up to 7 years, and they take a lot of the nutrition out of your body. So the thing that we use to help with parasites, wormwood, we use clove, and we also use papaya seeds, and there's another one, black walnut. Black walnut is another one we use. So that way you can kill the adults, the children, and the grandchildren. That's the larvae, okay? The little eggs, you can knock them out. All right, because it's very hard to find one herb that does all three. Okay, so that's why we combine those particular herbs together. Another great herb is valerian. I hate to cook valerian. It smells like sweaty socks dipped in vinegar and garlic. It's just awful. So yeah, if you're close to neighbors, don't cook valerian. Okay, but it may help you sleep better. Okay, that's a side effect. It's very good at relaxing you, sedating you. There have been studies done on valerian combined with hops. It's effective 70% of the time with people with insomnia. All right, so you could try using some of these herbs together. Valerian goes very well with hops. And then another great herb for energy, I need one of these right now, is ginseng. Ginseng is extremely powerful as an energy booster. A true ginseng is what we call Panax ginseng. There are some ginseng we call ginseng aren't really ginseng. Okay, so we have a Chinese ginseng, also known as Korean ginseng and red ginseng. It's got about 20 different names to it. Then we have the American ginseng. All right, the quinquefolia variety, and it's still made up the Panax ginseng. And this is very good for supporting the adrenal glands. It's very good for the brain, the cognitive side of things, helps with neurotransmission. It also helps with longevity as well. It helps resist the effects of stress. It helps the liver to stop degrading cortisol. It's helpful for diabetics as well, type 2 diabetics. And just don't take it at night. It could cause your brain to keep going. We have some night workers, like night nurses. They get it for their night shifts because they want to stay awake. If you want a better sleep, take it in the morning, and it will help you sleep better at night. I know from personal experience, this is a great herb to take for energy. Just don't take it long term. If you have some arrhythmia, you don't want to take ginseng. If you have, don't take it with caffeine. Please don't take caffeine at all, but especially with ginseng. It can be a coffee substitute. So if you want the energy without being thrown off the cliff at the end of the day, try ginseng. And it works very quickly. It'll work within a few hours of taking it. You'll feel the difference, especially when you're low. But if you have tachycardia, don't take ginseng. All right. That's funny. My slide is moving, but that one's not moving. Where are we going here? All right. We've lost connection here somehow. Okay, never mind. I only got a couple of slides left here, but I want to talk about frankincense oil. Frankincense oil is very effective for helping with anxiety and stress. We used it up in the training school. I think we used it yesterday. But it's very good for pain as well. And also, not just physical pain, but emotional pain. Yes, so emotional pain is real, and there are things that can help with that. And it's amazing how when went to the priest in the Old Testament and they brought their lamb, that the priest himself was covered in frankincense oil. It was actually on his clothes. And when you went into his presence, you would actually breathe in the frankincense oil. And it would give you a sense of serenity. It would actually boost serotonin levels. It makes you feel less anxious. And it just has a complete calming effect to the body. And you know, frankincense heals some of the deepest wounds and nothing else will heal. And I believe that's one of the reasons that Jesus was given frankincense, because he healed the deepest wounds and nothing else will heal. And so, last picture I had was of the sanctuary, and all through the sanctuary service, herbs, aromatic herbs were involved. Yeah, you would smell in the courtyard, in the holy place, and also the most holy place. And anyway, they have spiritual significance to herbs as well. Did you know that? There are spiritual lessons that herbs can teach us with the anointing of the Holy Spirit. All right, I'm going to leave some time for Q&A. So, yes, my enter key. All right. Okay. Nothing's happening. Sorry about that. It's okay. We were at the end anyhow. So, thank you, Lord. So, can we pass around a microphone? Has anyone got any questions on what we've covered thus far?
Before we start, I would like to make an announcement.
Yes, thank you.
A couple dogs back in somewhere back in, not in the dog area, it's a black and white dog and they're tangled up. So if it's your dog, then maybe you want to go untangle them.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Are there any good herbs for like attention deficit disorders?
Yes, there are some good herbs for attention deficit. One is ginkgo, one is oat straw, and one is California poppy. Thank you, brother. I'll just unplug this. Oh, you want me to keep it on? Okay. Yes, thank you, Carol.
What was the comment you made about something in botulism?
Oh, that was garlic.
So what happens? Like if
if you infuse garlic in the olive oil more than 7 days, it can cause botulism. Yeah.
Well, because I have a garlic oil, dropper thing. Which I've had more than 7 days.
Yeah. Now this is for consumption, human consumption.
Okay.
There are other oils like essential oil, garlic essential oil. That's a different story.
Okay. I'm still not sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Thank you. Okay, this was... Okay, that was the frankincense. You only missed 2 slides. Anyway, we'll keep with the questions. Thank you.
What was that for attention deficit? You said California poppy, ginkgo, and one other?
Yeah, oat straw.
Oat straw.
Mm-hmm.
How do you eat the poppies? Grind the seeds?
No, this is not opium. Just want to make sure. This California poppy, it's the actual flower.
So you eat the flower?
No, you make a tea, or you can get an extract. Yes, it's very good, particularly for kids that have attention deficit disorders. Yeah, and stress. Okay, another question over here. Thank you.
Question about the hops.
The hops, yes.
The tincture.
Yes.
Can you take it before bed, or do you have to take it during the day as well?
No, you take it an hour before bedtime.
And how much?
It depends on the form it's in, and it depends on the person. So an average adult, if you take it as a tea, you're going to take between 1 to 2 tablespoons in a cup of water. If you take it as an extract, you're doing 1 to 2 mLs 1 hour before bed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. That's what I would do. Although I don't like hops. Yeah, do better for me. All right, yes.
Are there any companies at all that make good tea bags?
That make good tea bags? That's a good
That's
question.
okay.
I would try Mountain Rose Herbs. Mountain Rose Herbs. There are some organic tea bags that do not use a chloride derivative.
Not to be repetitive, but just asking about the ADHD.
Yes.
Is there a difference between what you would recommend for, let's say, adult onset ADHD and or adult ADHD, not onset, but or would you say that the same herbs would work for children as
Yes,
for adults?
They do work for both.
Okay, so they would work for
Yes, it's just the dosage will vary.
both. Okay, so that's
Yes.
good. And then the other thing is, so we're definitely living in a world where there are a lot of mental health conditions,
Yes.
and even more complex perhaps than anxiety and depression. You know, there's schizophrenia, and there are
Yes.
other mental health issues and concerns. I'm not saying about whether they take medications, don't take medications. Even with the medications, are there herbals that you would recommend for people struggling with this complex issue? And yes, some of them will be on medication, so do you have to see how they interact?
Yes, okay, so this is something, it's not a cookie cutter approach. You have to do it on an individual basis depending on the severity of the condition that they're experiencing. I would say this, that the safest one to use for situations like that, especially even with people on antidepressants or those various medications, is the oat straw, because there's no contraindication with that. But I would just say this, that work with someone that knows both sides and is happy to work with you on that, because that's the biggest battle, trying to find someone that can do that. Yes, ma'am.
So what's the safe amount of iodine to take daily?
Safe amount of iodine, it depends on the type of iodine. Most iodine you buy from the store is bound to a halogen and it's not absorbable by the body. But if it's true, pure iodine that's unbound, it depends on whether it's a maintenance dose or, a therapeutic amount to get you back up to speed. So if, for example, you are severely iodine deficient, then you may need, I would take a larger amount, such as around 6 to 10 drops per day. Okay, which is 10 drops is less than 1 ml. So, but as a maintenance dose, you may only need 1 to 2 drops per day. So it depends on how severe the condition is. It's a bit like vitamin D. If your levels are, say, 20 to 30, you may only need say 2,000 or 3,000 units, whereas if you're down to 10 to 15, you may need 10,000. Yes, ma'am.
A couple of questions for therapeutic uses.
Yes.
One of them is there something for bipolar?
Bipolar.
Yeah, is there something
Yes.
good for that?
Yes.
And my second question.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead with that one first.
Yeah, I hate to be redundant here, but again, oat straw is the herb of choice. Yes, for bipolar. Now I'm trying to word how I'm going to say this here, because I don't want people taking this the wrong way. Okay. Often lithium is prescribed, and lithium is quite dangerous to the person. However, there is a supplement called lithium percolinate that is not as severe, or it's not as harmful, should I say. And in serious cases, they may need something like that. But in people who are more in a manageable state, I would use the oat straw. It's what I would recommend for that.
And then one lady who I'm acquainted with is having thyroid issues.
Yes.
Actually, two ladies, and I'm wondering, do you have some suggestions on that? One of them has been regulating some tumor with eating 12 pine nuts or something. But I'm interested what you recommend.
For hypothyroidism?
I'm not sure what the tumor is all about. I don't know. But for hypothyroidism.
Okay, all right. So for hypothyroidism, often we use the ashwagandha rhodiola, and we use the nettle and also Irish moss, because most of low thyroid function is related to stress, and also some of it is related to low iodine levels. And so your thyroid usually goes after your adrenals go. So your adrenals go first, your thyroid goes next, your moods go next, your sleep goes, your digestion goes, and then hubby goes, and then everything goes. So it starts with the stress response.
Okay, I got another announcement to make.
Okay, you find those dogs?
No, there's a white Chevy Impala in the front
White
parking
Chevy.
lot that is kind of parked in the way, and it's got Kentucky plates. So if that is, and they would like to move it
Okay.
so that it's kind of blocking the drive.
All right. Thank you. All right, we'll take a couple more questions. Thank you.
Are there any herbs for gastroparenesis?
Gastro what, sorry?
Parenesis, where it doesn't.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I would take some turmeric root. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't catch that mountain
Mountain rose. Mountain
Mountain-
rose herbs.
mountain
Rose
rose mountain.
herbs, yes. Okay.
Have you ever heard of carob helping kidney function?
Carob, helping kidney
Carob.
function. Well, I should have the best kidneys in America right now. I love carob. It's not a major focus of the herb is to help kidneys.
Yeah.
All right, but it certainly wouldn't hurt the kidneys.
Well,
But
we-
it does have good minerals in it. It's good source of magnesium, manganese, calcium. So it's.
Well, I have an anecdotal experience with it because a friend of mine. Do you know John and Sally Kelly?
Yes.
Dr. John?
Yes. I know.
Well, Sally sent me this thing. It's from John. Let me see. John
Hopkins.
Heinerman.
Oh, Heinemann.
It was an encyclopedia of fruits, vegetables, and herbs, and it had
Yes.
one little blurb in there
Yes.
where they had given somebody that had kidney problems carob powder, mixed in juice 2 or 3 times a day. And we had a friend in our church, one of our members was
Right.
on dialysis.
Right.
And he started taking dandelion root and this carob powder, and he went from dialysis 3 days a
Yeah.
week down to 2 days a week, down to 1 day a week. He no longer needs dialysis.
Well, I would.
Whether it was-
I would say it's more the dandelion, because
Okay.
the dandelion is better for the kidneys because it's very high in potassium, and it flushes out excessive sodium, which often damages the kidneys. And it has a natural diuretic effect, and it also removes toxins from the body. So I'm not saying carob wouldn't help the kidneys. I would just say that it may be a secondary contributing factor, but the dandelion would do more good, I would think, just from understanding the nature of the herbs. Yeah, dandelion. What is generally good for the kidneys is also generally good for the liver. All right, so dandelion's good for liver and kidneys. Things like milk thistle, nettle. There's juniper berries. There's a lot of things. Burdock root. They're often good because they're both involved in detoxification, the liver and the kidneys. And so you help one, you help the other. Yes?
What did you say was good for fatty liver?
Fatty liver. One of the best herbs for that is milk thistle. Milk thistle seed. Milk thistle seed extract. Yes. All right, we'll make this the last one.
I'm curious. I've come across several church members in varying locations that are coming down with Parkinson's disease.
Okay, yes.
What's going on that Adventists are having this problem?
This is not a simple answer. There are many different causes to the same disease, right? So Parkinson's, for example, it could be related to a number of things. It could be heavy metals, for example. There's certain dietary components that can contribute to Parkinson's disease. There are chemicals in our food that could contribute to Parkinson's disease. There are things in the water supply that can contribute. Usually you have what's called a convergence. You have multiple factors bearing down, leading to the same problem. Okay, so I can't say what is causing Parkinson's disease to happen to numerous amounts of, or a number of different Adventists. I know a great physician that ended up with Parkinson's disease that had a very healthy lifestyle. So I would say it gives you an advantage, but it doesn't guarantee 100% that you will not suffer from Parkinson's. However, I'll give you a remedy. Would you like a remedy for Parkinson's disease? Okay. So there is a bean called velvet bean. Velvet bean. Okay. So with Parkinson's, you have a part of the brain called it has cells in it called the nigra substantia, and this is where dopamine is produced. And so you have a substance called L-dopa or levodopa. So that's often what the doctors will give you, levodopa. You have a natural L-dopa in velvet bean. And so you can take the velvet bean powder, and it can mitigate some of the symptoms that is exacerbated with the Parkinson's disease. So that's one of the remedies. Another one is pomegranate. Pomegranate. Okay, so you remember Solomon had 700 wives, 300 concubines, and he had a pomegranate plantation. He needed them because we're told he ended up losing his mind. Yes, yes. Maybe he started developing certain symptoms, cognitive issues. Yes, I hope every wife got one tree. But helps with beta amyloid. And so it's very good for people with neurological issues that can lead to memory issues. It's very good also for the nervous system. It's very high in antioxidants, and it's something I'd recommend taking as a juice, pomegranate juice. All right, so before you forget everything I've told you, I'm going to finish there. And thank you for coming. I'll be a few minutes over there if you want to talk to me. And enjoy the rest of the day. Looking forward to Sabbath. Are you looking for Sabbath? Amen.
I do have one more announcement to make.
One more announcement. Okay.
They told me that they're going to serve watermelons and cantaloupes for a snack tonight, but they didn't tell me what time or when. So.
Okay.
So just keep your eyes on the food tent, I guess.
No pomegranates? Okay. We got melons instead. I think that's pretty close. Well, thank you so much for coming. God bless you all, and I hope you have a very blessed rest of the day. Thank you.